And I think one of the most common do betters for people in a sales conversation is actually asking follow-up or probing questions,
Yes.
whether it be to an objection to get to the root of the objection, or whether it be after asking open-ended questions like, what are your needs? What are your goals? What are the things that are bugging you? Always ask a follow-up. That I see actually in tens of thousands of conversations that we practice at Practica. I'm giving you a little inside scoop. One of the things that's most commonly done poorly is asking follow-up or probing questions. And that is where the gold is.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I am excited for today's guest, Manja Horner, because of several things. Number one, her business works with sales, and we all know how much Erin loves sales. Number two, she thinks big instead of small, and gotta love a woman who thinks big and is always thinking and creating and how do I make this work. And I love your business model too. As someone with a background in sales, I absolutely love what your business, the business you work for, does and how they do it. So with all that, before we get into all of it, why don't you give everyone a little more formal introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Well, thanks for having me, Erin. I'm so honored to be here and talking to your listeners. So, who am I? My goodness, right now it feels like a very complicated question because, as you said, I think big and I have my fingers dipped in a variety of different work activities. But who I am is a broader question. So, I'm a mom. I live up here in Canada, so I'm a Canadian. I've got 3 kids. I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that can be confusing because lately I'm thinking, why? Why did I
Why?
always want this? Wouldn't it just be
Why?
easier if?
Right.
And
Oh,
I
believe me.
cannot, yeah, and I cannot shut off that part of my brain that says, no, you have to do stuff and you have like a purpose here and you have a lot to offer. And what is that? I'm also, always trying to think in terms of what purpose can I provide for people? What can I do beyond just offering them a service? How can I help? How can I be, part of something greater? And what kind of legacy am I leaving? So these are the things that are always playing in my mind. And in terms of some details about me, I'm a Enneagram 3, that achiever kind of performer type. I am a manifester in the human design. So that's also really interesting. I would classify myself as more that visionary CEO thinker. And
Mhm.
I'm working towards just building the structure around me to have integrators and people that can support and help bring these big ideas to life, because that's my biggest challenge. And the thing that holds me back is when I don't have the right team of people around me supporting me, helping bring these ideas to done. I can just be like ADHD brain stuck in a whole bunch of different projects and nothing getting done. So I have to be very cautious as a human and as an entrepreneur that I have the right people supporting me.
So true. So to the way that I describe that in me, and literally my entire marketing strategy for years now has revolved around events.
Mhm.
And I have to have that because you have to point me towards something. If I'm not pointed towards something with a deadline, I say I'm the balloon and my team is the string. I will float away. I'm like, if I don't have something specific to point me towards, I get all floaty and nothing gets done. And there's all sorts of ideas, but right, and at the same time, if all you have is a string lying on the ground, you have nothing to lift it forward.
It's true. I love that. Having something that's a little bit more um, event based is helpful. I would agree. Like, project deadlines are
Yeah.
important for somebody who thinks like me. But the other kind of key part of who I am is that I'm an adult learning specialist. I've always been a teacher. I've always been somebody who takes a bunch of information absorbs it, processes it, and then thinks, oh, this would be really simple if we just said it like this, and people could learn it really well. So at the core, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. And actually, I started my whole career in adult learning as an educator. So I was a music teacher to start with,
Oh,
a
wow.
musician. My young person dream was I wanted to be a fiddle player with Shania Twain. She's like a huge
That's
Canadian
very, oh, no,
icon.
we know who she is.
Right. The whole world knows who
We
she
know
is.
who
I
she
mean,
is.
she's like one of the top selling female artists of
Yes.
all time or something wild. So when I was young, I wanted to be on her stage
That's
as
very
a fiddler.
specific. That's
It's very
very
specific.
specific.
And I really wish I had gone for that because I would have killed it. I would have nailed it. I'm actually a decent fiddle player. I learned East Coast fiddle and a
That's
classical musician. So
awesome.
I definitely had the skill to do it. It all came down to belief, right?
It
Confidence
always
and
does.
what are the steps to take. Anyways, somewhat of a lost dream
I
there, but
love it. I love
um
mine was never so specific. I knew I wanted to be a like a large animal veterinarian,
funny. That's my sister.
and
She's an equine vet.
oh, that's very cool. That I was thinking more lions and tigers and bears.
Okay.
But
That's cool. Yeah, super
yes,
cool.
though I by the time I figured out that school would have been a requirement, I would have had to like start over at 25,
Yeah,
right? And
and
it
that's
just,
tough to do.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Especially when math and science turned out to not be your special
Yeah,
gift.
special gift.
Right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, so I got into this whole thing as a music teacher. I was teaching music. I had a full studio of students in my late teens.
Oh,
And
wow.
at a certain point, I did a business degree because, my dad said, music won't make you money.
Have you
Do
seen the
something
wealthy people
else.
in the music
Yeah, yeah,
industry? Right.
exactly. I don't know. Again, dumb. I'm in therapy over that. But I thought, okay, well, I do like to teach music. So I did a business degree and then I went into music education after that. And I took an education degree and I thought, oh, yeah, this is really cool. I'm good at teaching people stuff. So I should kind of go down this route. At the time, I didn't want to be in a classroom teaching grade 9 band. So I ended up actually through all these kind of crazy routes, I ended up in corporate training. And so I worked for one of Canada's big banks and I learned the world of instructional design and I understood learning management systems and I understood what it took to get people internally to learn and to what were all the little pieces in corporate learning that needed to be thought of. And I really learned the full spectrum of what it was going to take. So that was an incredible opportunity. And it's large in part where I am now. I'm actually now working um, for a small training company called Practical Learning. This is my one hat that I wear. So I'm a consultant there. I'm doing sales. I'm figuring out what's the best learning strategy for our clients. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that if you're
Yeah,
interested.
because
But
well, and
also,
that's the
yeah,
business that that I'm just intrigued with, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Here's why. Here's why. So, in a nutshell, tell me if I got this right. Your company, the company you work for, provides role-playing actors. Would that be fair enough? For to train sales teams, which I think is brilliant because sales is very, very hard to teach. Because most people either, and I've been in corporate sales and I've obviously as an entrepreneur, most of my job is sales. So you either end up role playing with each other in training, which doesn't work because everybody's nervous and nobody knows anything. So what are you really doing? So a lot of entities will have people role playing with each other, or they'll role play with the trainer who almost knows too much,
Yeah, yeah.
or you practice on your prospects.
Let me tell you a little bit more about this. And I don't want to spend too much time, but if you are listening and you are in HR or you're in
Oh,
L&D or you've got a spouse or a somebody, listen up. Because the reason
yes.
why I started working for Practical Learning, actually only about a year ago, was because it is so aligned with my philosophy, which is do. When you're
Do,
doing a training, get people to do, get people to apply, get people to try,
especially
get people to
adults,
practice. Yeah, especially
especially.
adults. I mean, this is a core learning principle is you got to get adults learning. You got to get them doing, I'm sorry, and applying. So also being a music teacher, if you're not practicing, you're going to suck,
Right?
right? Like I haven't been
Yes.
practicing in a little while and I can tell. So let me give you a little
Well, right, you
analogy that
don't go to the
lines up.
concert,
Yeah.
right? You don't pick your instrument up at the concert having never or gone months without playing it. Why are we doing that in sales conversations?
So important to think about. So we operate off of this methodology called deliberate practice, which isn't rocket science, but there is research behind this. And essentially what it means is that you have to have a safe space for somebody to try and to practice and to learn. But more importantly, you need to have an expert who is guiding that practice effort. So in violin, if your wrist looks like this and you're trying to play away and your wrist looks like this, you're not going to get very far. So as a teacher, if I can unlock this problem and get the wrist to be here, we're going to fix a whole whack of stuff. It's going to make you play faster, more in tune, et cetera, et cetera. So likewise, in a sales conversation, our role player coaches, who are all professional actors, they're playing a character.
I
They're
love it.
listening to the individual practice. So it could be a salesperson, it could be a sales leader, learning some coaching skills on how to get their salespeople to perform better. Could be general coaching or general brand new leadership skills. We also help practice those. We also help practice inclusion conversations. So around the DEI topics. So there, any business critical conversation, we help people practice. But let me get back to what our coaches do. So they're listening for a pivotal moment that is going to basically change the course of the conversation to the negative. And then after they've done the role play, the coach actually says, okay, here's what you did well. What do you think you did well? They go through this series of coaching. And then they say, here's the thing that I think you should try differently. And they'll say, it could be didn't set an agenda or didn't say the outcome that you wanted. It could be didn't ask open-ended questions or didn't ask probing questions. It could be didn't have a value proposition set in a story. It could be any skill that's being practiced. They find that skill, help them redo it until it's better. And then the whole conversation is just like the outcome's completely different.
And one of the things I teach a lot is messaging. How do you talk about your business? And one of the things I say about magnetic messaging is when you have your messaging dialed in, you're so much more brave. When you are excited about the word choice, you're confident in how you talk about your business, you're going to be much more likely to scream it from the rooftops. And I think the same is true whether you're having a sales conversation or a difficult leadership conversation. If you are confident in your ability to successfully navigate the conversation, you're going to go into it. Well, first of all, you're going to go into it as opposed to avoiding it. And second, it with a completely different energy than if you're uncomfortable in that situation because you don't know what to say. I know for me, when I started in this business, one of the things that would keep me from reaching out to people is I didn't want to feel stupid. And I feel stupid when I feel like I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I think that's typical for most people. So we're providing a really great service for corporate employees so they can feel more confident, feel like more competent, and actually do the practice with us before they get to their own clients, their own prospects, or their own direct reports. So it's bad to do trial and error with the people that are the the end result. You want to do that trial and error with us.
So
And
what would you
go ahead.
What would you recommend as for someone in the entrepreneurial world who may not have quite the access? Like, are there hacks? Are there at least something that they can be doing to move them? It's complete. It's not exactly the same because of the coaching involved. But what are some of the things that entrepreneurs could be doing? to move
Okay.
them towards the outcome that you're able to provide in corporate?
Well, I would say give me a shout because I do offer practice through my own private coaching services for individuals that want to set up a simple sales system and be held accountable to their sales activities and to get coaching and practice during the coaching call. So I do that privately. I tend to work mainly with learning and development companies. So if you're providing a company that you want to get into corporate, like you want to sell your business, your service into corporate and you're small, you might be doing something really unique or you have a unique product that could be related to HR or talent development or learning and development, give me a shout because I am really in my personal brand. I am basically a bridge between aspiring HR innovators. So when there's a CHRO or directors of HR or learning and development, they really want to be innovative and provide the best thing for their employees. I can be a bridge and I operate as a bridge between them and results driven, really interesting vendors. So new on the scene, interesting small corporate training or coaching or consultants who do really interesting stuff and they want to get into HR and they know that they can make a difference. I'm a great bridge between these two worlds. And I'm actually creating more opportunities to bring these two people, these two
Nice.
groups together. I'm working on some stuff this year, actually, some physical events, which I'm really excited
That's
about.
a great idea.
Yeah.
So,
I have
but
these
that,
two brilliant audiences in my network, and I'm like dying to bring them together.
so which also leads me to one of the things that I love about you in a conversation that we've had is asking yourself, I'll just put it out there this way. One of the things that you do, then I tend to also do it. And I invite people to ask themselves, are you playing too small? And when you and I first met, we were having a random conversation about how do you get financing to buy businesses? Like,
Yeah.
that's a different conversation than the direct marketing person at your chamber, right? And
Yeah.
I want to see more women having the conversation of how do I get finance? I'm trying, not how do I do it? I'm looking at my options for the best funding so that I can buy a business. And
Yes,
here you
that's
are,
a
you
journey
have
I'm so interested in.
right, you have a job that you love and that you're good at. I can personally attest to that because I have inside scoop of who I've hooked you up and connected you with.
Yeah.
But I also have you're displaying, well, I also have this idea and I'm making it happen. And
Making it happen. Yeah.
what's the impetus? What's the drive? What keeps you from being the shrinking flower that so many people get stuck at?
I love that question. And I also remind me when we're done this, I want to circle back and talk to you a bit more about how entrepreneurs can practice. So let's come back to that because I feel like I only gave one piece. But what keeps me from being a shrinking flower? My goodness, I have always felt like the sky was the limit for me. And I grew up in a really small town. Yeah, I grew up in a small town on a farm, big family. Like there was no pushing to
There's no
be
reason
anything
for you to believe
special.
that.
Yeah. No, there was no reason. And I think along the way, a lot of limiting beliefs have crept in. Like as a teenager, I thought I could have done literally anything. Look, I wanted to be Shania Twain's backup fiddler. And I totally could have done that if I had have just figured out a few things and had a few mentors. So what I've learned along the way is like just try to get yourself into spaces where people are thinking bigger than you.
That's so
And
true.
don't ever feel like you don't belong. My goodness, it doesn't matter who people are. I've learned this. Like you can have businesses that are multi-million, billion. Everybody is the same human inside. And I think I've just told myself over the years, like, they're no different than you. They've achieved a level, maybe they feel more comfortable buying really expensive stuff, but work on that. And actually, that was my 2022 personal growth mission was money mindset. And I worked with a therapist for a year. I went to some great uh, retreat events that was my focus when I was there. I've spoken with really cool people like Joyce Martyr, her book, Financial Mindset Fix, so good. That was my year. It was face the stuff that scares the shit out of me. Talk
Yes.
to the people that I've been avoiding talking to, talk about money whenever I can, with
Yep.
whomever I can, and just get over it. It's a tool.
Yes.
So I think we hold ourselves back, because I think this is Lewis Howes, I think, said
Mhm.
this. He's got his book. Um, we have a fear of failure, fear of success, and fear of judgment. And those are, I think, the three things that I just read about in his book. And fear of success can be real. Like if I want to buy a business that's worth, X amount of $1 million, holy crap, am I worthy of that? Am I going to screw that up? Am I going to disappoint people who I'm borrowing
Well,
money
and I
from? And
was
that
gonna
was my
say,
biggest thing this year was, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint people, the lenders, the venture capitalists, the bank, my husband, myself. I don't know. It's like I had to work through that.
love what you're learning here and interested in more? Check out conqueryourbusiness.com to get immediate access to all sorts of additional resources and stay updated on our upcoming training events. And I also think, are people going to still like me?
That's the fear of judgment,
Like you
right? Fear
see
of
that
failure.
as
Will
your
I screw up?
businesses
Yeah.
grow and the haters come out of the woodwork. As you put yourself out there in different ways and the haters come out of the woodwork, and 80% of them are strangers who have nothing else to do all day, but 20% of them are like people you never saw that coming. Why would that person poo-poo the, but yeah, the fear of judgment. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my 2023 thing that I'm working on is fear of judgment. I've been working on fear of failure. I've been working on money mindset, fear of success. I'm working on fear of judgment. And actually, as my therapist, Sarah, will attest, I am like, okay, what are my values? Am I saying what I need to say? And this can be a tricky line, especially when you're trying to get into corporate and you're providing content that has to be corporate friendly, because that can sometimes feel a little bit misaligned with you as a human, and you don't want to step on toes, and you don't want to get canceled, and you don't want to offend. And that's been my thing. I've been so nice, don't want to offend. I want everyone to like me. And shoot, like, who am I? Can I grow? Can I be super effective and authentic if I'm trying to please everyone? And this is actually, I've got it on my sticky note in front of
There
me,
you
and
go.
it's a
Love
little flow chart, and it's like, you're either going to be judged or ignored. What do
it.
you want to be?
Pick one,
And I'm
right?
like,
Choose your hard. Choose your hard.
right.
It can be, you can
Yeah.
be
So
miserable and ignored, or miserable and judged, or you can just get over how you let it make you feel.
yeah, and that's tough. This is quite a journey that I'm on this year. So prepare to be, I don't know.
Prepare to be judged.
Prepare to be judged. Prepare to, yeah, because not everybody's going to like you or your style or what you do. So I want to cycle back to
Yes, please.
the entrepreneur focus. Like, how can entrepreneurs practice, especially sales conversations? And I would say, if you aren't getting in touch with a professional sales coach, somebody who can actually help you practice and role play, find a peer who knows the buyer, who's like, knows what that character might be like, and knows some of the objections that they would say, and get a buddy, get an accountability buddy, and do some role play that way, and make a structure, say to them, these are the 10 things that I want to accomplish in this sales call. Can you listen for them? Can you have a checklist or something? So try to mock it up a little bit and get them to give you some real feedback, because that's the next best thing.
And it's so hard. So in my career, I've had a coach for my keynote speaking, and I've taken the videos of me speaking to him, and it's an extremely uncomfortable but extremely helpful. Luckily we have the same self-deprecating sense of humor and a great relationship. But I've also done that with sales, where I've recorded my sales conversations and had a coach listen to them, which is probably even more uncomfortable, because at least with the keynote speaking, I was already out there speaking, like people already heard that. And it's brutally uncomfortable and absolutely invaluable. And I've offered it to so many of my clients. And then you do get over it. Like, I have a team and I'm forever like, oh, just go listen to this. I'll just record my sales calls here, go listen to it. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And I think the faster you can get over perfectionism and know this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, great at some things, bad at other things, and just use it as data, opens the door to being able to learn and get better.
Yes, it does. I have a client, and actually, he's one of my only male clients who I coach. And what was interesting is that I never told him to record his sales calls. He just started recording them. And he's newer to sales. And he said to me, oh, I'm recording my sales calls and I've listened to them all and I made notes on them. And I'm like, amazing. And
Yeah.
so unusual, because I find a lot of this is the first time that's ever happened. So that could be a bit of a personality thing. But what I admire about him is he's just using this as pure data. Like, I want to get better. This is data. What can I do better? And I think if we can approach it less emotionally, less personally, like, oh, if I didn't do so great, it's a personal attack. No, it's just data. Listen to it, hear it, do it again. It's no different than if you're a musician and you record yourself and you're like, ooh, that section didn't sound good. Let me circle it on the music paper and go back and target that. That's actually going to vastly speed up your success.
It's the same thing athletes do.
Yeah.
It's the exact same, you hear them, they watch the tape. It's the exact same. Here's where we did that well. Here's where we did that not as well. That's what drills do we need to do to get better at the part we weren't so well at?
Yeah. So I mean, it's very uncomfortable and it can be awkward listening back to a conversation. But if you want to move forward faster, you want to learn faster, it's the best way, because you can find the spots that you're like, oh, why did I ask that? Or why didn't I ask a follow-up question? There was so much more I could have uncovered. And I think one of the most common do-betters for people in a sales conversation is actually asking follow-up or probing questions.
Yes.
Whether it be to an objection, to get to the root of the objection, or whether it be after asking open-ended questions like, what are your needs? What are your goals? What are the things that are bugging you? Always ask a follow-up. That I see actually in tens of thousands of conversations that we practice at Practica. I'm giving you a little inside scoop. One of the things that's most commonly done poorly is asking follow-up or probing questions. And that is where the gold is.
Absolutely. I mean, so when I teach sales, I have like a 6-step process that I teach for sales, and it's all questions. Mm-hmm. It's all questions. But here's the beauty of using questions as your sales process. It gets you out of your own head. It gets you out of your own head, because, one of the challenges I had in the beginning was, I have a degree in journalism and MBA in marketing. So I came at this as, if I could just find the perfect couple of words to string together to get somebody to buy from me, when the truth is that doesn't exist. That is not how that works. So instead, taking that approach where I'm asking questions takes all the pressure off of me, and keeps me out of my own way.
You'll find that the prospects start selling themselves on your thing. They start telling you all the things that are the problem and all the stuff they want. And as you summarize and reframe, they're like, oh yeah, like that's the thing. So it's actually a very important piece of the sales success of sales conversations, is asking those questions and then following up.
And I think a lot of people don't do it just because they're nervous. One, sometimes it's just skill. They don't know that that's how the better way to go. And two, especially with entrepreneurs, so many entrepreneurs are just in situations where every sale matters. And when every sale makes or breaks you, it makes the energy of the whole situation so much harder.
It starts to smell desperate.
It does.
Yeah, and that is a problem, you know, realizing your close rate is not going to be 100% unless you're pre-qualifying like crazy, but um give me tips on that.
I had the hardest time, right? I had the hard so in corporate, I had an extremely high close rate because we were the biggest fish in the industry. So that was easy. It was more of how are we going to do this, not if we're going to do this. And then
Right.
in my first business, which was a franchise, basically, if there was a job to get, meaning if the work that was needed was sufficient enough to require assistance, I had an 80% closing ratio because nobody talked to me if they didn't already have a problem. They
Yeah.
knew they had the problem, right? So it's different in consulting businesses where you'll see if you've ever heard this before. Both of those situations was, I call it being able to sell when it's safe. I
Hmm.
could sell when it's safe. It's safe to sell when somebody approaches me.
Yeah.
Right? It's very safe. A lot of people can sell when somebody says, oh, I heard you speak. I saw your post, whatever it is. How can, I'm so interested in this. Then the person feels that it's safe and they can have a sales
Mhm.
conversation. The challenge is, can you initiate a client journey and bring somebody through that and suggest a sale and take it from there?
Well, and that's a different situation. And that really comes from, you know, my success there has come from relationship building.
Yes.
So when you're building genuine win-win relationships with people, that, you know, that's when you can start to learn from them what their challenges are just through real conversation. And you'll be able to probe and uncover, oh man, they're actually saying a lot of things that I know I can help with. And I love that because my thing is building real genuine relationships with people. And that's why I've become this bridge between these worlds.
Yeah.
Because when I'm having conversations with my target audience, if I can't help them right now, I want to connect them to somebody who can, because that's adding significant value to that relationship. Whether I close the sale for my service or whether I recommend them to somebody who's a totally different
Or
service, but they can do something for them, that is just building my value with that relationship. So I'm happy to make connections because it
absolutely.
serves
Or
my audience.
right. Or, and especially with what I do and what you do, maybe they just need a tweak that I can answer right then and there, and they're good to
True.
go.
True.
And they're good to go. Absolutely. I talk about going into a sales conversation or any conversation completely open to anything, which means I'm open to the sale, but I'm also open to whatever that correct path is, instead of walking in with a predetermined idea of what I want to sell to you before I've even asked you any questions.
That's non-sleazy sales, right? Like you are getting, you are adding value at that point and you are just being open, and that's true business development. And I think that's where sometimes I, as a visionary idea person, can get um you know, the shiny object syndrome, the balloon, whatever you want to call it, is because I hear so many things. I'm like, ooh, that's a great problem. I can
I
solve
could,
that. I can make a
yes.
business for that.
So the way I think the reason I'm able to handle it, because I'm like you, like if in my strength finders, it's strategic thinking, visionary, future thinking learner, like this is it.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
can't not do it. But if you look at like my personality profiles, I'm high goal driven, but I'm also very high interpersonal.
Mhm.
So on a regular basis, under normal circumstances, I am just as happy to create a relationship as I am to reach an outcome. That being said, under stress, that interpersonal part kind of goes away, and I'm just like, get
Mhm.
it done, right? So I have to be careful about that. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, but whatever your natural strengths are, the more you can make it about how do I come from a place of service?
Yeah. That's that's been my, I think my guiding post, my value over my whole career is What am I doing to help? How can I be of service? And it's exciting because I do have some other work that's building and brewing in my company Boost, bringing in some really awesome consultants we're now designing courses, designing content for, I'll say, small, medium businesses. So, in the like 10 million up to 100 million range, who are like, whoa, we're growing. We need our staff to be trained and we need custom content. So I have my business Boost. And actually that's a different business model altogether, because I'm selling and I'm closing the deals there, but I have all of the execution is being done by others. So that's exciting because Boost is growing as a learning design business.
Very
and
cool.
It's the first time that I'm trusting all the outcomes of the projects to other people. And they're big projects, multi-month, work streams. So it's exciting. And that's another way that I'm stretching and growing, is just this active delegating. So I can work as an employee, have this great kind of personal brand, and own a business that's also growing at the same time. And I don't work like 24 hours a day. I work 8 hours a day.
Right. You have 3 kids?
I have 3 kids. Yeah.
I mean, they won't let you work 24 hours a day.
No.
just not acceptable.
In case my boss hears this, I work a full 8 hours a day.
It's okay. I'm getting you a deal. So you can take a minute off and be on the podcast because we've got, I'm prospecting for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So here, if people want to continue this conversation with you, and I just so highly recommend it, because one of the biggest challenges of being a small business owner or an entrepreneur is you go into business to do the thing the business does, and then you wake up the next day realizing you're a salesperson. And
Yes.
The truth is, you don't get to do what the business does until you figure out how to conquer, how to navigate sales conversations. So they want to continue this conversation with you. What is the best way for them to reach you?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. That is the place that I hang out and play. So get over on LinkedIn. You can find me at Manja Horner, and maybe we can just link me.
Oh yeah, we'll be
somewhere in the
or you
bio
can just look up me
notes.
and find you. It's not hard.
Yeah, look at Manja Horner. So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message there. I would love to connect. If you are in the adult learning space, or you have a business that's related to learning and you're curious about how can you sell into corporate, I'm telling you, this is the time. Corporate is desperate to retain employees, to engage employees. There is so much cost involved right now in employees leaving. So they're like, literally, HR is desperate for how can we get people to stay? How can we support people? And they're investing.
And I also think there is an awareness of the way we used to do it doesn't work anymore. So
there is.
That internal way of doing it forever doesn't work anymore, and they're starting to look for new solutions.
They are. And I just did a really great interview earlier this week. It's on my LinkedIn profile, and I was speaking with a chief diversity officer of a large company, and she said that by 2025, 25% of their workforce will be Gen Z. Is it Z in US or Z in US? I always get it confused.
Gen Z. But
we're Canadian, so we say Z.
You also say process, which I love, but that's okay.
Yeah, instead of process. So we have opportunities as entrepreneurs if we are creating content, and we're creating transformation for multi-generational, around inclusion, around, engagement, resilience, life skills, communicating between the generations. There's so much opportunity. So if you're innovative and you want to get into corporate and you're not sure how, please get in touch. I'm dying to meet you.
Dying to talk to you. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your ideas, all of your insights. I just absolutely love so much of what you're doing. So thank you.